it is great to welcome back to our show and here at WTMY, one of the best singers in the business. Brand new CD he has out. We're going to talk about that. It's called When You Come Back to Me Again, Steve Lawrence 60th anniversary celebration. And Steve joined us by telephone today. And Steve, I know it's been a couple years since we talked, but always good to have you on with us. You're a friend of us here in Sarasota.
Thank you very much, Doug. And I must tell you, it is always nice to talk to you, although we don't get to talk that much and that often. But every time we do, it is a treat. And I must say, when Edie and I were working down in Sarasota and in that whole St. Petersburg area, the theater was the Van Wezel, wasn't it?
Van Wezel, right? Yep.
Yeah, we had such good times there. And the audiences were really terrific. And one of these days, I hope to get down there and just to say hi to a lot of people that I haven't seen in a long time.
I think next to probably playing New York or Las Vegas, you have so many of those same New York people that come down here that loved you. So I think that was part of the reason.
I think they're called snowbirds, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it, snowbirds. Well, first of all, congratulations on the CD. I heard you as we talked before we went on Dennis Bono's show, a mutual friend, kind of talking about it and singing a couple of songs, and I wanted to have you on to chat about it for a few minutes because obviously it's a tribute to Edie, but some great songs that you picked on here, kind of a departure too from some different kind of music, right?
Yeah, it is. It's I think Ron Dante, who produced it, he said, let me surround you with today's sounds a little bit and see what that does. And he said, you'll have total approval, Steve. I won't put anything out that you're not going to be proud of or that, and it turned out I was really very pleased with the way the record turned out. It is a different kind of slant for me, but all the songs I really liked a lot. And that was one of the prerequisites I had with him. When he called me originally, he said, hi, my name is Ron Dante. We've met a long time ago. I don't know if you remember me, but I'd like to get you back into the record business because I saw you last time in Vegas. You sounded terrific. You look good. I think I can get you back. And I stared at the phone and I said, who is this? I thought it was, a friend of mine put me on. I said, well, Ron, I'm very flattered because the music that I like is unfortunately not in vogue at the moment. But I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So we had lunch and we chatted. He's a terrific guy. He produced some environmental records and a couple of other people that I know in the industry. So I said, okay, but just two conditions, okay? I want to be happy and proud of the songs that we're selecting for this album. And I want to be sure that it sounds okay and it's mixed properly and it's not a departure because, people who over the years have developed a little infinity musically, so I just don't want them in any way to be disappointed with this current output. He said, I guarantee you'll approve everything. I said, okay.
And what you've done here, I had a chance to listen through it a few times already. We're going to have it on the station this week, start playing some of the songs. They sound like standards the way you've done them. I think that's what makes it sound good. Some of them,
actually, Doug, some of them are standards that I never got to. There's a song that like Our Day Will Come, which was in 1962 was the #1 record by Ruby and the Romantics, if you recall, in the record business of those days. And there was, of course, Dream a Little Dream of Me, which has a big record by Mama Cass. I never recorded that. And there's a song called That Sunday, That Summer, which Nat King Cole recorded. He had a big record on it.
Yeah, right.
And then there was a not too widely known song called Vanity, which I was crazy about. And I first was introduced to it over 50-some-odd years ago. And I couldn't wait to do this on the records, and I just finally got around to it,
You had some great charts, too. Who did those for you?
That was done by Ted Perlman. He's a very, very terrific writer and orchestrator, and he works, he engineers, he does everything. These kids, they go in, they turn their garage into a studio or whatever. But it works. It seems to work. And Vanity, I think, was recorded by Sarah Vaughan years ago, and I'm not sure, but I think she recorded it and had a kind of a quasi kind of hit with it. But I love the song, and the saxophone solo was Gary Urbeck, was played on so many of my dates and Edie's dates and our dates, and also the trumpet player Rick Baptiste also is a very good studio musician. I'm always very pleased with the way it turned out. The title tune, by the way, was we did this. We started it about 2 years ago. It was When You Come Back to Me Again. I went to see Garth Brooks in Las Vegas. He was working at the Steve Wynn Hotel.
Right.
And if you ever saw him in person, even if you were not a big country western fan, you left there shouting his praises because he's such a wonderful entertainer, has such a great savvy of the stage. He knows it, and he's so informal and likable. His personality, I mean, you know, I became a huge fan of his. And at the end of the show, he started asking for requests and things like that, you know. So when I thought he was coming to the end of it, I was sitting in the 8th row on the aisle. And when you're on stage and the spotlight is hitting you in the face, you can't see really much past the 3rd row, you know.
Yeah.
So when he came on the left side of the stage, I said, when you come back to me again. So he put his hands over there and said, oh, where do you know that song from, sir? I said, well, it was from a movie called Frequency, sir, if you remember. So he said, oh, yeah, that's right. Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, they were. I said, yeah. And it was an interesting film. And at the end of it, they played his recording of When You Come Back to Me Again. So I just fell in love with the song and got to see the film on cable a couple of times. So when we went to see him in person, I didn't go back because it was a madhouse back there. Edie and I and my son David went down to have dinner in the Steve Wynn Steakhouse. So Steve Wynn came down with Garth, and they had sitting 2 tables away from us. I said, excuse me, I can't pass up this opportunity. I'd never met him before, but was a big admirer. And I went and I said, Garth, I'm Steve. I said, oh, damn, you're Steve Lawrence? My God, I know you. And I was so shocked that he knew. You know, for some reason or other, you think like country people don't know who pop singers are, pop singers don't know who rock singers. But everybody has that fear. If this is your life's work and this is your business, you realize who it is in these other arenas of area of music, you know. And he was a big fan of mine. He says, Edie, yeah. I brought him over to Edie. He got on his knees at the table. And he said, Edie, if my wife knew you were here, she'd be busy. Trisha, she's the biggest Edie. She'd be on a plane coming out here now. I said, well, he was so complimentary that we just both fell in love with him. When he came back with Trisha the next time, we all met. And we really became, we developed a good phone relationship and an email. You know, today everything is on email.
Everything's electronic.
That's right. So when I recorded it, and I sent it to him, he said, oh, my God, I'll play guitar on that. I'll sing backup. I said, no, it's okay. I love it. So he sent me his track. And he sings much higher than I did. And I was so thrilled that he sent it, but I couldn't, it was way too high for me. So we tried to slow it down, which they can do technically. But they can't get it more than a tone down, because after that it starts to sound like, you know. So it sounds kind of out of whack, you know. So I thanked him, and I said, I can't do it, but I'll send you when we finish. We're going to replicate your track, because I just loved it. So I sent it to him, and he just loved it, and but he lives in Kansas. He lives in in Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska! I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he lives in Nebraska, but he records in Nashville. Like most of the country music is down there, you know, the studios and all that stuff. So he had the track with him, and he, as a surprise to me, and it's probably the biggest compliment I've ever had in my life. He and Trish were there. They put their voice on the chorus, on every chorus of the title tune. I
saw his show, the live special he did, I guess around the holidays, and you know, I'm not a big country music fan. I like it, but you're right. He just did him and the guitar. It was great.
That's right, and it was really sensational, and he really captivates that audience. Yeah. And so I did this, and it was the title. And Edie heard the album, you know, about a year ago, and she said, Steve, she says, it's really wonderful, honey. I think it sounds good, and you should be very proud. I said, yeah, I am. And so, I was very happy with it. So she did get to hear it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, great tribute, and the title obviously means so much more as being the title track.
It turned out we didn't even know that was going to wind up as the title, but we picked it then when she was still okay. Life is what happens to you while you're making other plans.
That's true, yeah. Steve Lawrence is our guest, and When You Come Back to Me Again is the name of the CD. And I did want to ask you, Steve, a little bit about the Tonight Show, now back in New York. Of course, you started on the Tonight Show when it was in New York with Steve.
That's right.
Steve Allen. I guess that's pretty good. I'm a former New Yorker, so I like it. I think it'll be pretty good. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I did, and I think he's terrific, Jimmy Fallon. I liked him even when he was on the later one, the late night talk, whatever it was. And he's a very energetic, and he's also musically inclined, which is lovely. He's got a lot of rhythm, and he sings okay too. So, and I think he's going to be okay. I think he's going to be terrific. If he hangs around for a while, I think he'll be around for a long time. and I'm happy that the energy of New York is spilling out into the show as well. You know,
those must have been great days. Obviously, when you did it, it was literally live. They didn't do tape at that point, right? The first few years, that was it. 11:30 or 11:15, I guess, wasn't that when it came out originally?
Exactly right, Doug. Because the show at that time, news was on at 11 o'clock, and there was only 15 minutes of news. And actually, there's only 15 minutes of news today. They keep regurgitating the same stuff over and over. But so we went on at 11:15 to 1 o'clock in the morning. Originally, it was an hour and 45 minutes, and then we were on locally for about a year and a half, and then the show went on the network in 1955. And Edie and I were thrilled that we were going to be on the network. And it was a wonderful experience. We both garnered so much training on that show, and you know, we worked with in sketches and just to chit chat. It was a wonderful, like, basic training for singers. You know,
it really gave you not only from singing perspective, like you said, you got to do the comedy with Steve, and of course you did that on so many variety shows after that. But nobody more talented, I think, than Steve Allen was. Right? I mean, he could do it all.
Oh, he was the best. He was instinctively bright. And he was very well educated himself, and whatever schooling he had. But he was an avid reader and a wonderful writer too. I think he wrote about 50 different books, and I turned out in 3 of them. He he got a big kick out of me, and it was a thrill in my life that I could make him laugh. You know, and I adored him on so many levels. And of course, Edie and I met on that show, and we just I had so much to be grateful for to him.
I was watching the other day, I saw it originally when it was on, but the PBS special they did on Johnny Carson. You were in that a bit. They interviewed you briefly. Boy, you watch some of those clips of Johnny, and you say,
yeah,
we miss him. I mean,
yeah, we sure do. And John was a good friend of mine as well. We lived out in Malibu. We were about 10 minutes away from each other, and he had a tennis court. And we were friends even in New York, because he lived, when we all lived in New York, we lived the next block from him. And I'd run into him occasionally, believe it or not, you know, in the market. he and I were subjugated to we were the marketeers in our families. So, and we just developed a friendship. And then we both eventually moved out to California. We continued our relationship. And it got closer because California's so spread out, you know.
Right.
So when we went to Malibu and he had this tennis court, I would play with him every Friday or every other Sunday or whatever it was, you know.
I remember the night you came on and you kept saying, "Oh, how great you sing," and you said, "I wish I could sing like you," and you brought him up for a singing lesson. I think, didn't you? Do a duet with him?
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
I remember that night. It was great.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because he played drums too. You know, he was the first guy that, you know, when they had a thing called Music -1.
Sure.
If you were a drummer, you bought that record, but it was the drum was not in. You supplied it. You listened to earphones and you played with it. And if you were a trumpet player, it was a Music -1, and the trumpet wasn't there. So, you know, so John, but he was a really terrific musician, and he loved music, and he was a frustrated singer. And he knew he didn't have the pipes to do what he wanted to do, and he was a big fan and a good friend. And he always loved when Edie went on, or I went on, and occasionally we both went on, like when it was a special thing for a holiday, like Valentine's Day or something like that. And when we were coming on, he said, "I want strings for Steve and Edie tonight, okay?" So I said, "Okay, fine." So and he was such a good friend and a fan, you know. And it's you really, when you're a friend and a fan of somebody, when it's returned, it's the biggest compliment you can have. And I admired him greatly. Play tennis with him, as I said, once a week, and just, you know, it was just very special.
One of the few people in show business that really left on top. I mean, he could have stayed on longer if he wanted to, I think, but I think he left when he felt it was the right time.
And he really was bright, and he handled that closing show so beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and he did it. You know, there are some people that go out gracefully, which he did, and on the other hand, there are a lot of people who should go out in the beginning gracefully, but that's another story.
Well, a lot of those in pop music today, Steve, but we won't mention any names.
No, there's a lot of, you know, to me, there's always been good music and bad music. Yeah. I mean, there's good music and bad music in every arena, and Edie always used to say, you know, classical music is a lot better than it sounds. So you have to be discerning, you know. I said, okay. But she was funny too. She really was.
And, of course, Carol Burnett's show. I know we chatted last time you were on with us about working with her, but they put out some, I guess, new episodes on DVD that you can get, the full episodes with the musical numbers. And you must have done, what, 1 or 2 a year on that show between you and Edie, right?
More than that, yeah. I think you mean so far as the guests on the show?
Guests on the show, right? 2 or 3 times a year.
I was probably the most used guest star on that show.
Yeah.
I became like an imported regular.
You were next to Tim Conway. You were the next most popular guest.
Timmy became a regular on the show. But I probably did more guest appearances on that show than any other guest star on that show. But it was a thrill because I knew Carol a long time. When I first met her, it was in late mid-50s, and we were doing a special out at the NBC Brooklyn studios. And it was, they had a car pick me up, and then Dan Daly, they picked him up, and then we picked up Carol. She lived on 8th Avenue over at Delicatessen.
Wow.
So we picked her up, and we became friends from that point on. And so I've known her through up and down and in and out, and just through hard times and soft times and fun times. But mostly it was wonderful times with me and Edie and Carol, and it was just terrific. The sketches I did, she sent me one of the best gifts I ever received before DVD, when there was VHS.
Sure.
So she made a copy of every sketch that I did with her, and it filled 2 VHS tapes.
Wow.
Now, VHS, depending upon, whether you LP or SD, whatever you put it on, they could run like about 3-4 hours. So in reality, she put together about 6 hours of sketches I did with her.
You did one great that kind of stood out where you played The Godfather.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
With the wad of cotton in your mouth. And
I had a wad of cotton in my mouth, and I did my best impression of Marlon Brando.
Right.
Hey, I'm happy to see you. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're the guy that could put in my system, So it was, and Harvey Korman came in, and he wanted a favor from The Godfather, and we
and you broke him up. So, you broke up Harvey.
well, I tried, but I didn't succeed all the time. But in this case, I did. But also, Timmy Conway, his whole life was to break up Harvey.
That's right.
And he killed him every time he walked out.
And it was real. It wasn't the phony kind of thing. I mean, that's what made it work.
No,
it was really breaking up,
Yeah, Timmy did the sketch and rehearsal with him, and fine. And then he'd come back out in the sketch when they were taping it, and he had like a piece of spinach on his tooth that looked like it was disappearing. And then one time he said, I'll never forget, I think it was a sketch that he was doing about 2 guys in meeting and all that. He met, I'll pick you up at the house, we'll go off at dinner. He said, okay. So they were talking in the living room, and it was not scheduled, and Timmy looked at Harvey and said, excuse me, Kate, just excuse me, I'll be right back. Harvey looked at him, and he knew this. He knew this bugger was going to do something. He didn't know what, but he walked off stage, and he cued the sound man, and they had a toilet flushing. And then Timmy came back and just, he said, okay, I'm sorry. And Harvey was on the stage.
It was over.
He just it was over.
Well, recently you did a show with Tim. Was it 2.5 Men, right?
Yeah, Tim. Well, that was, I tell you the truth, I would have done that show for nothing, but they
don't tell them.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't tell them that. But I mean, it was Carl Reiner and Tim Conway.
Oh, yeah.
And Gary Marshall and myself. We all knew each other for so many years. So we were just the lines that happened when the first reading and then the first rehearsal on the stage. Had they taped all that could have been another show. I'll tell you the truth. I only said to the producer, who was a terrific guy and a big fan, I said, God, I hope you get this thing edited before they air it, because, all the lines that were flying from Timmy and from me and from Carl Reiner and from Gary. So, they said, well, we got to get you guys together again. I said, well, if you can, we're all ears,
Yeah, Carl,
that was terrific. Really.
Carl, 91, I believe, right? I mean, he's still going.
92.
92, yeah, doing great.
Yeah, but he said, so what's the difference between 91 and 2? He says, I said, well, I've known Carl a long time, and he was always sensational. He was a wonderful writer, a great actor, and a great comedy actor, and a great producer, and he also wrote he was part of the Sid Caesar writing staff.
Right, right.
So was Sid is also one of the writers.
Yeah, I was saying, did you ever work with Sid Caesar, who unfortunately just lost a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah. I just adored him. He was just a very special guy and extremely gifted, creative. And I once did a show with him, a special, and it was a craft special. And Edie and I were the host of the show, and they had Sid and Imogene, Sid and Imogene, I think, and then Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. It was just a bunch of couples.
Oh, great.
And so we were doing this, we were having dinner at Edie and I were cooking, so we had all them all over. And we were sitting in the living room, and Sid knew that I was a patsy for him. And his eyes, he was able to do his eyes like Harry Rich. They rolled around in his head, but just sitting there, like. Yeah. So I was laughing. I was laughing throughout the whole sketch, So then it was Monday to Friday, and then Friday you tape it, so by Monday and Tuesday I'm still laughing hysterical. By Wednesday, Nick Vanoff was the producer. I said, Nick, you have to take me out of the sketch. It's embarrassing. I can't in the sketch. The audience is supposed to laugh, not me. I can't stop laughing. I can't. He said, "Oh, you'll be okay." Thursday, I'm still laughing. I said, "Nicky, please, I'm begging you, take me out of the sketch." He said, "No, you know what? Put a cigar in your mouth and bite on it when you feel like you can't control it." Which I did. I had a cigar, and I when I made my speech, whatever it was, I put my cigar quick back in my mouth and made my speech. And then I finally got to the point, and Sid knew I was a patsy. And by Friday and taping it, he knew he went even over
more than
he went like over the top, and the cigar went just flying out of my mouth. I said, and he knew he had me, but oh God!
And when he passed away, I went on YouTube, and that great sketch he did where he was the This Is Your Life sketch. Did you ever see that one?
Oh my God! Yeah,
unbelievable.
Howie Morris
Uncle
was hanging
Goopy.
On to his leg. Howie Morris, if you remember, am I talking about the right sketch?
Uncle Goopy, yeah.
Yeah, he was hanging onto his leg. He couldn't let him go. They embraced. He goes, they embraced and kissed him. Oh God Almighty!
Oh man, and those are all live. Unbelievable, all live. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Steve, when I told people we're going to have you on, a lot of them asked me, and I'll ask you for them. Are you going to be doing any performing coming up soon? People want to know.
Well, I had a couple of offers from some theaters around the country, but I just put it on hold because
obviously,
at the moment I need a little more time to go by.
Right, no doubt about that. Yeah, but
it would be tough for me right now.
Yeah, well, this CD, obviously, a tremendous tribute to Edie, and all the fans out there are going to want to get this. When You Come Back to Me Again is the name of the CD and the title track. Curb Records. Is that the Mike Curb organization? Is that the Mike Curb Singers? Is that the same man?
Yeah, I've known Mike. As a matter of fact, when he had Mike Curb Congregation,
right?
Edie and I took him to Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace.
Okay. I was wondering if it was the same people. All right, yeah.
Yeah, so I know him for ages, and he when I talk to him every once in a while, he used to be lieutenant governor of the state of California.
Right.
In addition to which, he's a very smart, shrewd businessman. He knew the music business inside now. When I first met him, he was a youngster, and he said to me, "Mr. Lawrence, I said, please, but Mr. Call me Steve." He said, "Okay. Steve, your record of on ABC was 150 of Edie's album." He knew the numbers of the record. Not only the title, he was so impressive. So when I told him, one of I spoke to him, they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just recorded an album." He said, "Really? Who's putting it out?" I said, "Well, I'm Ron Dante, producer. We don't know who's putting it out yet." So I said, "Send me a copy. I'd like to hear it." Sent him a copy. He said, "Well, geez, if you wouldn't mind, if you could make a deal, I'd love to put it out." So I told Ron, and they made a deal for him to put it out. And I said they made it exclusive with the Amazon.com. They're handling it. They seem to be getting some good reviews and good action on it. So I'm very pleased with it. And just to have an old friend like Mike Curb do this, it just was really very thrilled about it.
That's great. Amazon.com, you can get it there, and real easy now. And the little drone isn't ready yet, but someday it'll just bring it right to your house in an hour, right? The little drone.
Yeah.
Well, you may have to wait a day or two now, but it's still worth the wait.
We'll drop it off as soon I swear to you, as soon as the drones get in, I'll make sure they're stocked. But listen, they may deliver to the wrong address, but just ask your neighbor if you got an album or something.
That's right. Well, Steve, I know we took longer than we said, but it's always great to chat with you, hear some of these great stories, and we won't wait 2 years before we talk to you again, and we'll have the CD on the radio, and please let us know if you're going to be heading out this way. If not, we'll definitely do a phoner with you again soon.
Thank you, and it gives me a pleasure to say hello to all my friends in Sarasota and the St. Petersburg area. I'm so pleased to speak to you. It has been a long time, and I'm sorry if I took too much time.
No, not at all. No, this is fun to talk to you. I grew up watching, like you said, the Carl Burnett show and all your work on the variety shows, which I miss, by the way. I'm glad there's YouTube to at least see some clips of those.
Yeah, I do miss it too, but maybe I guess everything that goes around comes around again.
Yeah.
So maybe
Steve Lawrence, always great to chat with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Doug. I loved it, and tell all your listeners a big hello, and I just hope we get to see you